Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Take 30 podcast. So, my guest today is Miss Sharon Ralph. She is from Seattle, Washington. So, Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Erykah, for having me. I'm glad we got together today.
Yes, me too. Me too. You want to go ahead and open up with your poem that you wrote?
Okay, yeah. I actually used AI as my aid to putting all the opportunities and actions that Ken Dykewell put in his book, What Retirees Want. I used this book quite a bit when I wrote my book, Fresh Courage in Retirement, but he takes the nuggets of what could be a future, a grand future for us boomers in retirement. And I'm all about potential. I see all this free time in retirement as untapped potential. So
Yeah.
let's look at life this way. Once upon a time, in a world where people were living longer than ever before, there was a group of retirees who discovered they had an incredible gift to share: their wisdom. These retirees, part of the third age revolution, realized that retirement wasn't about fading away, but about embarking on a new adventure. One day, they decided to put their wisdom to work. They started volunteering in their communities, mentoring young entrepreneurs, and tackling social issues in with their years of experience. They learned new skills from technology to creative arts, keeping their minds sharp and engaged. Because of their efforts, something magical began to happen. Businesses started to recognize the value of this untapped resource and created programs to harness the skills and knowledge of retirees. Nonprofits flourished with the influx of experienced volunteers. Intergenerational connections strengthen as young and old work side by side, learning from each other. The retirees found a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer defined by their past careers, but by the positive impacts they were making in their third age. They explored new passions, started businesses, and even helped shape government policies to better serve their generation. As their influence grew, society began to recognize their legacy.
Miss Sharon, are you still there?
Oh, oh, okay, I'll start the paragraph over again.
I think you faded out just a minute there.
Yeah, I went black here on my side.
Oh, okay.
As their influence grew, society began to change. The stereotype of the rocking chair retiree vanished, replaced by images of active, engaged older adults contributing to their communities in meaningful ways. The longevity revolution was in full swing, and the retirees leading the charge. And so these wise elders showed the world that retirement wasn't about an ending, but a new beginning, a time to put their hard earned wisdom to work and create a legacy that would benefit generations to come.
Woo! Everybody, let's give her a virtual round of applause. Woohoo! That was amazing. It's always wonderful like what AI can put together.
Yeah, since Dr. Kenwell Dykewell had done all this research, and he's been researching boomers for 45 years. And so this is taking all his nuggets and putting them into a story that we can, oh yeah, from this to that. And there was some challenges and we did overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And but we're gonna kind of get into retirement and also like the importance of like saving for retirement, especially w- like somebody like me. Um, so the first question I love to ask all of my guests is, what is something challenging that's happened in the last few weeks? Or what's something you learned in the last few weeks? And it can be anything, a book you read, an article that you read, or anything that you saw on TV.
Oh gosh, I watch this TV, but the book I've been talking a lot about is written by
And Sharon, are you still there?
okay, yeah, I went. Both of our screens went black.
Oh no.
Okay, so it's by Dr. Neha Sangwan, Sangwan, and it's called Powered by Me. What I like about the book, I've been kind of thinking I could do a better job of expressing emotions. Like maybe some of my emotions are shut down. And her Powered by Me is her steps on how to recover from burnout. Now, she was in the ER where there's crisis all the time. And so she had to teach herself actually what she said there's physical energy, there's mental energy, social energy, spiritual energy, and did I say emotional energy? Anyway, 5 energies. And she,
Mhm.
as you go through your day or your life, what kinds of energies is being gaining energy, and which ones are uh, losing gain or drain? What things are draining your energy?
Mhm.
And it was pretty insightful in that we kind of don't think of mental energy or social energy, but all this loneliness and isolation we've had a lot of drain emotionally. And so I liked, she had a whole section on Emotions 101.
Mhm.
And at the end of the section, she asked, well, on a general basis, can you say your work and your relationships and your um, career, well, that's work. Anyway, she named 5 areas, and she says, on a whole, do you feel like you're gaining energy or draining energy? And that
Ooh.
was a hard question for me. I was struggling with some of those, but I'm going to get better. I am going to get better.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, and you ask yourself those questions: Are you gaining or are you losing energy? Um, and it can be like a mix of both. Like you're gaining energy and then you're losing energy. Um, but that's a very interesting, deep question to think about.
Well, especially if it's something coming up. And she said, if you have a project or an
Mhm.
event, like maybe putting on a birthday party, does the idea of putting on a birthday party drain you or excite you?
Mhm.
And when I gave this to a group here a couple of weeks ago, that example of a birthday party really struck home with one of the ladies. Norway, where birthday parties would drain her, but one-on-one or just a small group of people she would be fine with. In fact, I've been to her house for uh, Thanksgiving dinner, I think this last year actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, and it's funny to think about. It's like, okay, does, you know, what is like you have to kind of listen to your body, your energy, what do I really like to do?
Yeah, kind of like your intuition.
Your intuition. Yeah, you're listening to your intuition and figuring out, okay, what's really exciting me? Does this really excite me? And that's a hard thing that like we really have to trust our intuition.
Yeah, here's I make these little art blocks, And Oprah says, feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you. How cool is that? Because I
So
don't know,
cool.
we get so monotonous of paying for our roof and our car and our education that life becomes mundane. But to think about what excites us, I'm trying to get better at that too, Erykah.
Yeah. It's funny too. Like I'm thinking I'm the same way. Like I'm really trying to figure out like what really excites me. And definitely there's a lot of things that excite me, like especially doing podcasting. It really allows me to connect with others, and especially people like you.
Hmm.
Um and you know it is, I'm still learning, I'm still figuring that out, and especially as time goes on. So Miss Sharon, just tell us just a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and stuff like that.
Well, I grew up on a farm, a 100-acre farm in eastern Washington,
Mhm.
where we had to clear the land of sagebrush, and we started milking cows and stacking hay and gathering the eggs. And yet it was a time when I started wanting to feel invisible because of the abuse that was going on in our home.
Oh
And so
wow.
yeah, so I said, if I double down and keep focused and be obedient and don't rock the boat and get good grades, I might be safe. And
Hmm.
I pretty much was. But it wasn't until I retired when I started realizing that I had kind of felt invisible my whole career. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of felt it in the bottom of my gut. And I'm realizing that a lot of people, both young people and the elderly, feel invisible too. Either you don't know enough, you're too young to know, maybe,
Right.
or you don't have your business card anymore.
Right.
This tells me what I'm doing and who's my boss and what we're trying to accomplish. And without that, in fact, one of my first clients, she she was terribly offended when she was walking along the street. I think they'd just been to the grocery store with her daughter, and her
Hmm.
daughter was talking as if her mom was invisible since she didn't have a job.
Oh wow.
It was so offensive to her. She had a job she had loved. It was working in the ER and a second shift and loved doing it. But
Hmm.
because she had gotten sick a couple years before this and had extended leave of absence, apparently when COVID came, they wanted to protect her and kind of shoo her out the door.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
that is hard to take. I just really could feel for her that, um, and then for her daughter to act like she didn't count because she didn't have a job was terribly offensive. But I did love learning. I skipped second grade, and
Ooh.
and I got a master's degree in behavioral science. So, Erykah, I love bringing out the best in people. I think everybody has a nugget of gold inside. In fact, that's my favorite thing to do is help people realize their invisible assets. What's in your heart to do? We get the privilege of figuring that out in retirement because now we can live from our heart instead of our brain or our muscles, whatever. But I have on Instagram, Sharon underscore Queen of Courage, where I help people be curious again and be vulnerable a little bit and try some new things out. And I even have a weekly membership group on Kajabi where
Mhm.
we talk about going from loneliness to resilience. This is a time when we need lots of resilience, but hey, I bet you need resilience too.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But yeah, I will definitely link all of your show notes, and you guys, you can check out Sharon's Facebook group. And I'll link that in the show notes below. And you guys can connect with her. And she really does give you good life lessons. I think, especially people like me, would definitely learn a lot from you.
Good.
Um, so, what unique gifts and talents do you possess that you want to share with the world? And it can be anything.
I think one of the things that's quite different about me is that I love possibilities. I look at anything that happens, good or bad, as what possibly could turn out with this, Maybe that's my curiosity overflowing too. But I know I read, I used to get the Guidepost magazine, and they would tell various stories of people who had like gotten a traffic ticket and they wound up marrying the guy who gave them a ticket. So good news can come out of bad news. But I love also talking about potential, because I see all this free time and retirement as being a resource, an untapped resource that needs a focus, a purpose, a new lease on life. I want to live to 100, and join me. And because when you volunteer and when you're curious and courageous, you live longer, your health is better, and there's fulfillment and satisfaction by giving back to people, giving back to the world. And our world needs some healing right now.
Yes, I agree. Like, our world definitely needs healing. And that's amazing. Like, you're basically, what you're doing is really giving back to the community, instead of when you're always on the go, especially working a 9 to 5 all the time. You're go go go, and then you never really do get to figure out, okay, what do I really enjoy? So it's like, and I feel like society, is first of all, the fast moving world, right? We're always moving. We always, they always preach, you have to have a 9 to 5, or you have to go one way around, when there's multiple ways you can give back to the community. And that could be like, if a 9 to 5 is not for you, you can always look into entrepreneurship. So it's like, you are finding like what works for you. And sometimes when you're always on the go, 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 you don't really have time. It's like to say, okay, do I really enjoy this?
Well, and I think, Erykah, that when we get quiet and like on vacation, you'll sometimes hear a still small voice inside that says, you could do this or whatever. And oftentimes it scares us because I don't know how to do that. Right. And yet, one of my little art blocks, I say, you'll know the next step once you take the first step. But I think that still small voice inside is actually talking to what could in fact make you happy. And it may scare you, but that's where courage comes in. Because you think, well, I could do it like 10 or 20 years later. I don't have time for it now. But if you take the first step, the road may open up before you, and oh yeah, this feels good. I'm going in a better direction.
Right. Yeah. Well, like you said, it's about taking the first step, and and really finding, okay, I really like to do this. Now this is the first step I'm going to do. So,
Michelle, are maturing, but I guess I learned about 30 years ago is stop living your life based on fear. I had just moved to Tampa, Florida from Seattle, a long ways across the country. And I was starting to bounce off the walls because I was getting a little anxious and scared, and I didn't know very many people down there. And
Mhm.
and so I kind of went looking in for some help. And at that time, I got out my Bible concordance and looked up the word courage. I needed some more courage. And I found in Joshua chapters 1 and 2 several references to do not be afraid, be of good courage, be of great courage, do not be afraid. And that's when I decided to stomp my foot and declare that I refuse to live my life based on fear. Now, sometimes I had to imagine holding this sign up to my nose
Right.
to change my behavior, but
Mhm.
it's made such a difference. I've never had cancer or diabetes or spent a night in the hospital, no COVID implications at all, had no shots. Um, and I think in those 4 years, I had maybe a 3-day cold.
Oh, right.
So, um, I living your life based on courage has big rewards. Okay, and another thing about getting what makes you happy is here's an assignment. List 20 things you love to do.
Ooh,
20. That's a lot of.
20 things. That's a lot. List 20 things you like to do.
Well, I love to bake, and in fact, I dreamed up a couple baking projects. I was having to work three 12-hour days for about a year and a half. And I thought, what do we do with 4 days off? Well,
Mhm.
I like to bake. So I dreamed up a project of baking 3, 4 batches of cookies and take them to the church and having them leave something in, when they go and call on people, like even the
Mhm.
hospital or the first responders, leave some cookies with them. Somebody's been here. Look, there's cookies left behind.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It's I love that. Like just stop living your life based on other people's expectations, based on societal expectations. And that's something that, I'm learning to work on. I'm learning to figure out what is best for me. And I don't care what other people have to say. They will downplay you. They will tell you this is not a good thing to do. This is too risky. But I say do the damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's an example of something I love to do. And this quote is from the Shack book. And it happens several times in the book, but I love to sew. I love to collect words of wisdom, and I love color.
Ooh.
There's a number of these in my book, Fresh Courage in Retirement, where I there's something about things being beautiful as we see that it gets processed in our mind differently. So my
Mhm.
book is meant to be kind of a do-it-yourself process of finding your purpose. It asks a lot of questions, just like what do you love to do? And helps you to kind of maybe start connecting the dots of something that could be um, uh, satisfying your heart. I remember helping some people say, well, after you mentioned something about values and volunteering, and so I said, okay, I'm going to go out to Google
Mhm.
and put in that I like working with kids and I like working with crafts and I like working with let's see, what could be another thing? Maybe water sports or activities. Put them into Google and see what comes up as possible job descriptions for career
Mhm.
or
Ooh.
hobby or mentoring and that kind of thing. So we have so much things at our fingertips now to help us make wise decisions that is powerful.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources available out there. Um, that really could help us. If you want to learn about, or if you want to, let's say, learn to crochet, like there's a lot of YouTube videos now on how to do that. You can find books about it now. You can find lots of things. And it's amazing how we have so much resources just by the hands of our fingertips. Like times like really have shifted. And in and I love that. I really do like the fact that we do have a lot we can rely on now. But let's see here. How can we reframe retirement as a period of re-engaging or reinvention?
Yeah. So, when we're talking about crocheting, I, in fact, was crocheting with Afghan way back in my young 20s.
Mhm.
And this critical voice came in my head and said, Sharon, it's Friday night, you should be out socializing. And I'm not going to go to bars and grills, stuff like that, but that's kind of what was implied. And I said, wait a minute, I'm doing what I chose to do. I'm doing my crocheting. I was crocheting an Afghan that's still on my bed. So part of this time that we have available is, in fact, creating a legacy. I quilt, and this kind of resembles quilting,
Mhm.
I have a quilt on my bed that I made, and it's kind of an expression of love, that all this devotion you're putting into something to create it. And imagine the feeling I made it myself, like
Ooh, yeah.
a cake, even something as simple as that. So creating a legacy in retirement is a great investment of your time. I know my dad was a carpenter, and he kind of imagined making a grandfather clock as a legacy. And even though he didn't make the grandfather clock from scratch, he did order a kit and put it all together, and it did work. I'm not sure it's still working though.
Right.
But imagine, when I did podcasts, I love to bring on people that were kind of thinking outside the box. And this one guy, he simply was a mentor to second and third graders on reading and math. And he told a story of imagining the immense pride in seeing his students graduate and walking across the platform to get their degree in high school, because I mentored these students at that young age.
Oh.
Those lives at such a young age. And I have on the Great Discovery platform some ideas. One of the books is What Makes Your Heart Sing. And it's
Ooh.
8 ideas that could get your brain reactivated, with what's possible. It could be singing to prisoners. It could
Ooh.
be beautifying the roundabout in your area. It could be touching the water in 7 oceans, or
Mm.
following the monarch butterfly migration from Mexico. There's a whole gamut of what's possible in retirement, and it doesn't have to cost a bunch of money. It just costs you your curiosity and thinking about what's possible.
Right. Well, that I agree. Yeah. It's funny too, like as we're on the topic of crocheting and stuff like that, my mom used to crochet stuff. Yeah, my mom was a big crochet. She learned at the time they didn't have social media and stuff now, but like she had a magazine of stuff where like she would look at like little designs and then she would just learn how to crochet, and she crocheted of a couple of different things.
Yeah,
And
I
I
had
was
that draw model, like the hutch behind you. I saw
like,
her draw a hutch on a napkin and go home and make it.
ooh,
Now my dad couldn't do that, but his brother was pretty handy with that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, Mom, you should have started a crochet business or something.
Well, and that's another thing that hobbies can and frequently do turn into gainful employment. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It really and it really can help allow you to start a side hustle, a business. So like, and I thought that was so cool. And I think she showed me a couple of pattern of her crochets that she made, which was really cool. And I have to get her to get her to find them if she still has them. Um, and show me, and then I'll definitely show you off off camera what it looks like.
yeah. I watched a movie Saturday night, old Hallmark movie from 1998. It was called Grace and Glory, and that was these two ladies' names, and it had a lot of cute lines in it. From one was older like me, and one was from New York City and didn't know how to start a fire and how to boil water and all this kind of
Yeah,
thing. Some of the lines were so classic, but it had kind of that intergenerational element to it that um, shows how we can spark things in each other with helping solve problems and so forth. That I just thought it was a pretty cute example of how we have to learn, how to get along with each other and learn from each other as mentors. So
yeah, I agree. Like, we always can learn something from one another. And that's especially why like I love podcasting is that we learn new things every day. And we're constantly learning about stuff, learning from other people, and mentoring each other, kind of, and so like it's really cool to like meet people that are doing the same thing like that I'm doing, and it's like, oh, and it builds community, and I love building community and interviewing different guests like you're amazing, and everything that you do with coaching and stuff like that, and writing your own book. um, and speaking of your book, we can get it from Amazon and your website too, right?
right, and on the greatest copy, it would be just a digital copy, but it's I think it's $20 out there, so you can read through it and especially do the exercises. Make that list of 20 things you enjoy doing.
Ooh, I like that. I think I'm definitely gonna do it. Like write down 20 things that I enjoy doing, and I'm probably gonna do it after this podcast episode. But one last question I have for you before we hop off is how do you define self-care, and what self-care activities do you incorporate in your life?
What healthcare is to me is me being in charge of myself, my own health. Uh,
Mhm.
I I remember when I was probably about 23 or 4, working downtown Seattle, second shift, and the flu was going around. I think it was maybe October,
Mhm.
and I remember getting a little nauseous at my shift. I was about 2 hours into my shift, and I started. Well, I wonder if the flu coming on, but I said, "Shoo, go away, go bother somebody else,"
Yeah.
and it did. So that was the start of me taking charge of my health. As a result, I've never spent a night in the hospital, never had cancer, never had diabetes, never had COVID, never had shots. I don't stand for that. Shoo, go away.
Shoo, go away.
And I said,
Exactly.
and
You
I,
gotta what they say. You gotta rebuke it. Like I rebuke it.
I don't believe it. How many times do you think, oh, well, that happened to mom, and now it'll probably happen to me, kind of thing? No way.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Like you gotta speak good. Like I want good health and speak those. I like to call those little affirmations. Like no sickness. Like my grandmother used to say, and she's Christian. Um, oh my goodness. I think it's no disease, no sickness or disease shall prosper.
Yeah. I picked up at the library this weekend a book called Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die. I am shocked that the book is kind of thick and it tells some of the symptoms and they create. And my younger sister this last year has been in and out of the hospital a lot.
Oh
And
no.
I would wager that she's got buried trauma in her body.
Hmm.
And I feel bad about that, but there is several people now that are teaching us how to heal our own body. And a lot of it starts with that stop sign. Stop anything negative. Yeah, anything negative just does not belong in your thought process. And our thoughts are what create stuff. So, for example, when I'm trying to go to sleep at night, every night, I pray for 20 people as I go to sleep and as I wake up. So that's my positive thought for the day. Yeah, I might fall asleep before I get to the end of my 20 people, but that's the whole point. I'm putting myself to sleep with positive thoughts.
Yes. Yes. Love it. I love it. I love it. And honestly, I think that will end this episode. So thank you, Miss Sharon, for coming on the show. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And where can my guests, my fellow listeners, find you on social media, your website, anywhere we can find you?
Well, I have four pages on Facebook, um, and both Effortless Vitality and Sharon Rolfe and Fresh Courage in Retirement and a group called Retirement Wellbeing. My book is, like we say, Fresh Courage in Retirement: Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. Explore the possibilities with my book. And then I am on a variety of podcasts. I do have podcasts on Spreaker, was audio only, Reimagine Retirement or Maximize Retirement. Yeah. And then I did an audio and video one called It's Your Time to Shine, or Fresh Courage, It's Your Time to Shine. So I use the phrase fresh courage a lot because it was in a Hallmark movie. I loved it. They said when you go home from vacation, you often go home with fresh courage. And I'd figured that out by then. And I said, oh, I'm going to hang on to that. And think about with your list of 20 things you love to do. Oops, where am I going?
Yeah, there you go. You're in the middle.
Yeah, fresh courage is a process of finding deep knowledge about yourself, things you love to do, your hot buttons, your aspirations, your guiding principles, and then we massage it into kind of a metaphor, a parable. Here's mine. I'm a precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires. I want to light your fire too.
Wow, I love it. Woo! Everybody give it up for a round of applause for Miss Sharon over here. Woohoo! No, it's virtual, but
We're going to
um,
change the world.
yes, we're gonna change the world. I believe so with my whole heart. But thank you again for coming on the show, and thank you guys for joining me and tuning in every other Tuesday. Make sure to rate the podcast 5 stars and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. Now, if you want to come on the podcast, you can always DM me on the Take 30 Podcast Instagram page, or you can email me at thetake30podcast@gmail.com. So I will do my best to answer you and bring you on the show. You are welcome to come on. Thank you guys again for coming on, for tuning in and listening to the show. Thank you, Ms. Sharon, for coming on the Take 30 podcast once again. And I just ask that you guys just please, please, please spread love in whatever way it forms, because you can change the world too, and your voice matters. So I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys.